This story begins roughly in the 15th century AD, at the height of religious unrest and uprising in England. A man who was born Peter J. Holyoke changed his name to PeterHallock in order to board a ship and embark on a voyage to the New World, where he would change the course of history.
My name is Timothy Allen Buteau, and I'm the 13th generation descendant of Peter J. Hallock. Peter Hallock was a very religious man. He felt so strongly about his religious beliefs and the people who were following him that he had decided to leave the country. And at that time, the only escape was to come to the New World, America. At that time, if you weren't a Roman Catholic and you decided to go against Roman Catholicism, you were more than likely put to death.
These English Puritans set sail from New Haven Colony in Connecticut and landed on the shores of Long Island, New York in 1640.
As a matter of fact, Peter was the first person off the boat, where the others were afraid when they saw the Indians on shore. And being a man of his size, he was a large man. He was more than likely bigger than life to the American Indians. They looked different. We looked different. And they enabled themselves to become friends and work together. Peter actually taught them farming and how to raise ducks so they would have a food source. He did buy a large parcel of land from the Indians, and they traded for it. The land was subdivided amongst the other 12 men that came with him, so they all had their own parcel of land that they could work. Peter did go back to England to get his family. That whole journey took a year. By then, the Indians thought he had died and resold his property to another settler. When he came back, they realized he was still alive, and they gave him a different piece of parcel of land, which was called Oyster Point.
Peter Hallock successfully escaped religious persecution in England and helped establish the first Puritan Church of Christ in Southold, Long Island, paving the way for religious freedom in the United States of America.
Being the 13th generation descendant of Peter Hallock, somehow to me points towards there's something that's supposed to happen in the 13th generation. Some people view the number 13 as very unlucky. Indeed, is not.
13 are Christ and his apostles. 13 are the attributes of God. The 13 is called Theopanicus, which is the showing of God, as the Epiphany is just 13 days after the Nativity of Jesus. Christ speaks 13 titles in the Gospel of St. John, beginning with, I am.
I've always been religious. I've always had a strong faith in God. You have to believe that you are here for a reason, and that reason is a very high power. I feel, and I've thought over the years, that because of that, and that I know that I am a descendant of Peter, it's almost as if it's genetically embedded or in my DNA to be like him. Well, being very young at the time, I didn't understand why people were staring at us and pointing at us when our family walked through the streets of Long Island, New York. There was a reason why they were doing it. We were actually the first family of Long Island. They knew there was history there. I'd never been told about my legacy until later on in my life, probably when I was in my 20s. And I'd heard stories growing up that our great-great-great-grandfather 13 generations ago was a very famous man, but nobody ever discussed him or talked about him. I was blown away when I realized who he was. And I'm still blown away. I'm still in amazement that I am a descendant of this man, that his blood runs through my veins.
Of the hundreds and hundreds of descendants of PeterHallock, a large percentage became pastors and ministers, built churches, taught religion on a collegiate level, and did the work of God. And his legacy of religious righteousness lives on.